Hey, welcome back. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode, actually, episode 6 of All Things Fitness. And today we have another phenomenal guest, a dear friend of mine, someone that I haven't known long, but I know of her through a group that I rode with last year some. And I tell you, everyone I talk to, they have nothing but good things to say. Dena Colie, phenomenal athlete, phenomenal coach. You got to meet her. She's an unbelievable person, and I tell you, you all will see for yourselves just how unbelievable and amazing our guest is. How you doing, Dina?
Good, Cross. Thank you very much for that introduction.
you are more than welcome. Today, we're going to talk about, Dina is a triathlete coach. I wouldn't even just say triathlete. I'm just going to say a fitness coach. Because you don't just train triathletes solely, right? You do some swimming, you do other things.
Well, yeah, it's all part of the triathlon world.
Okay.
Swim, bike, run, strength, all that.
Okay. So, but do you focus just on triathletes? Like if someone came to you, generally they all are triathletes.
I've trained some runners, people looking to do, half marathons, people needing help in the water, swimming. So you can take each one of those sports individually or put them all together and do that as well.
You're just an all-around great coach, right? There you go.
Of course. Thank you.
So today, we're going to talk about the perception of a triathlete. Our focus is going to be on triathletes and just the coaching aspect, period. And Dina's going to help us understand what it takes to be an athlete. I mean, we're going to talk about fitness and in her world, in our world of cycling and running and swimming. As she said, when you put all three of them together, you become a triathlete. But we're going to just talk about the perception. And Dina, we were talking earlier, and you kind of made this reference of how people perceive every triathlete to be like this exceptional athlete. And let's dive into your story. Let's take it back to the beginning. How did you even start? You are a triathlete, but you didn't start out that way, right?
No, not at all. I've always been athletic. High school swimmer. After that, I got into a little bit of bodybuilding, which I carried into college a little bit. Out of college, needed to lose that college 30 that I had put on, so got back a little bit of strength training. Eventually got married, had some kids, which kind of takes you out of the game a little bit. Did most of, just what everybody does to just kind of keep moving, right?
Right.
A little bit of running here, a little bit of home videos, kept the strength training going. And then once my youngest got into school, then I felt the need that it was time for me to really get back and focus on my health. So joined health club again and did a lot of aerobics classes, pretty much anything that they had. I'd walk by the master swimmers and think to myself, why would anybody want to do that again? Because I was a high school swimmer and I was like, not really thinking I would ever get back into that world, but here I am. And met some great friends, and that Edwards had a triathlon class that piqued my interest. Always something that, I think like most of us, kind of in awe of those athletes, right? Wow, how can they do that? So decided to try the class with some friends, and the rest is history. Here I am, 16 years later, and I'm still enjoying and dedicated to the sport.
So you've been in sport. You've been around sports for pretty much all your life. I mean, at least to the point of maybe high school up, right?
Correct.
But would you call yourself? Were you ever an elite athlete, or were you just someone that was athletic?
someone was just athletic. I think I always aspired to be an elite athlete. If you've talked to anyone, I make reference of myself as I'm the Rudy character. I will work as hard as anybody out there, but don't have a lot of the natural talents that some people are blessed with. So I believe that, where I have gotten to and the success that I've achieved through a lot of hard and enjoying what I like. It's what I like to do. So I think that's easier to do the work.
So let me ask you. So when we talk about the perception of a triathlete, explain that to me. What do you mean when you say people have a perception of a triathlete?
Sure. So I think the hardest thing that for myself to grasp along this journey is people referencing me as this amazing elite athlete. The perception for myself is not that. I'm the typical age grouper out there doing the sport, had some great success at it, and continue to enjoy it and try to achieve certain goals that I put out there for myself. So I think when somebody thinks of a triathlete, they immediately think of an Ironman, a 2.5 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and a full marathon at the end. So that in itself is very overwhelming. But what they fail to see is there's many different levels. There's sprint, there's an Olympic, there's a half marathon or half Ironman, there's a full Ironman. And then there are other avenues. There are aqua bikes. So if you're not a runner, you can go and do the swim and bike portion.
Wait. You say aqua bike?
Aquathon?
The aqua.
So it takes the run out of the picture. So you're just doing the swim and the bike portion. And then there's the duathlon. So if you're not,
I knew about the duathlon, the run and the bike, but I didn't know it was just a swim and bike. Oh, wow.
There's several, actually for us, there's a really great group of events up in Michigan, just over the border. There's one in June and there's one in August as well. And they offer all the distances, including aquathon and, the sprints and the Olympics. So you got a group of people that, want to train, but they're not going to do the longer distances. You can still, enjoy it as a group sport and have a little bit of something for everybody. Oh, wow. So there's a lot of options as a triathlete. But I think what I meant by that is I don't want it to scare people away from triathlon, that they think they have to be this elite athlete, or they think, man, I don't know how you guys do that. But I think we all know that if it's something you want to do, right, and you put in the effort to train for it, that goal can become reality for you as well. Now, I just came back from Utah and watched the World Championship full Ironman. And that was a combination of regular age group people as well as the top athletes from all around the world. And that was kind of a unique instance because they changed an age group Ironman to a world championship. So you got a really good mix of people at this very large event. But it really, the one thing I love about triathlon is that it's an individual journey with a community. So it's like a group sport, but it's really what you want that journey to be. Is it about just making the swim and the swim cutoff because you can bike and run? Is it getting out there and being able to run a half marathon that you never thought you could do after a 56-mile bike? And it doesn't have to be that long. It could be the Olympic distance. I competed at the Olympic distance for a very long time, and I find it very manageable. It's a 1,000-meter swim, 26-mile bike ride, and a 10K at the end, which is 6.2 miles.
Right.
So that distance for me was kind of my sweet spot. I was able to compete well, but it's really what you want out of it. You don't have to get into triathlon to be a top competitor. It could be a personal goal that you set out for yourself to just accomplish the distance.
So,
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to ask you in that part right there. So how many people do you have or do you see that come into the sport and maybe they came into it as a personal goal. They wanted to see if they could do it. And then they do it and they find that they want to compete and maybe turn it into something else. Is that like a normal path, or do you see more people come in and just kind of stay in that? Unless they come in with a competitive mindset, you find that they come in, if they just wanted to accomplish the goal of doing it, they kind of stay in that vein, or do you see that switch?
Well, I think, and I think this is another kind of cool part about triathlon, is that it's not just one thing. So if you're running a marathon, you're out there running and you're judging yourself on that one instant, right? Okay. So the triathlon has 3 disciplines: you're swimming, you're biking, and you're running. So you, as someone coming in, I would say the majority of the people I coach come in as just trying to accomplish that goal. Okay. So they're coming in to saying to themselves, this is something that is piquing my interest, and I want to be able to go in and start and finish a triathlon. And so we embark on that journey together. And then I think what happens is the triathlon, they get through it, and it's kind of like this huge accomplishment. And when you've completed an accomplishment, right, you feel good about it. You're like, wow, I did it. When can I sign up for the next one? Okay. So it kind of breeds them to continue on, because they might have gone in and said, wow, my goal was to really get through the swim. Well, I did that. And the bike felt kind of easy. I think I could do better at the bike, satisfied with the run. So even when I compete, I have goals for myself in each discipline. And if I have a great race, there's a lot of really good takeaways. If I don't have a great race, then you're kind of saying, okay, what can I do better for the next time? And that kind of feeds the next goal. And your training pattern for the next competition. So I think.
Go ahead. No, I didn't mean to cut you off. So
That's
what
okay.
is the?
I just think there's something that's always going to keep you in the sport.
So let me ask you this: what is, from an age standpoint, triathlons? Do you see the older generation? Is that? I don't want to say is it something new. Has it always been like that? I know we have like that master's class where I'm at 50. I'm just turning 50. So I would imagine I would be considered in the master's group, right? What's that age? I hope.
We consider ourselves masters. I think triathlons usually, age range from 8 to wherever you want to take it. And I think that's another draw to us in our older years. Now, the thing about triathlon, some commitment to it, right? Okay. So everyone says, how do you manage life? How do you manage family? How do you manage being a triathlete? So again, you have to figure out what your goal is. And you have to have the people that are close to you on board with that. Because if you're going to go out and do an Ironman, you're going to be gone a lot of hours on the weekends. Because you have to put the training in to compete at that distance and want to accomplish the distance and be successful at it. So for me, it was obviously... I kind of, in a way, have it a little bit easier. I work in the evening, so I have a lot of free time during the day. Okay. So people that usually work the 9 to 5, they have to make a decision. Am I going to get up earlier than I normally get up and get that done? If not, can I squeeze in something over my lunch period? Or it's after my day is done, I have to come home and get that training in. So you have to figure out what's going to fit your world the best.
Okay.
And it can fluctuate. But there has to be some kind of commitment on your end to get the work done.
So help me understand the classifications then. So
sure.
What are they called? So the older group is, what category is that? Is that a category?
Well, no, it's not. We are categorized by our age. So when you compete in a triathlon, you are grouped together with your ages. So I compete in the 55 to 59 range. So it's usually a breakdown, and you're always competing at what your age is at the end of the year. So if you're going to turn, 55 this year, you are going to compete at that level, even though you might only be 54. You're competing against people that are in your age group. Okay. And then, overall, they always have overall winners in every triathlon, but you're going to compete in an age group. And I think the beauty of the sport is, like I said, you can take this to however long or into your life you want to be. And I think having the 3 disciplines actually helps you. Okay. So you're cross training a lot. You're not just a marathon runner putting in running miles every single day, pound. You're in the water, taking off the fatigue, the pounding of on the joints.
That's right.
You're on the bike, doing different things. So I think having the 3 disciplines also allows a lot more longevity in the sport. Okay. But 70, 80, if you want to compete. I got into the sport at age 40. And as I continue to age up, I'm like, it's got to get easier. But unfortunately, those people that are enjoying the sport like you are coming right along with you. So you tend to compete against people that from race to race. And if they're doing well, why stop?
Right.
You're staying healthy, you're enjoying the sport, and there's a lot of longevity in it.
So talk me through recovery. It's a demanding sport. Like
it is.
Any sport that you do, it's a commitment, as you just talked about. It's a full-time commitment. How do you manage recovery?
Well,
for your athletes, I should say.
For my athletes, I always recommend a day off. First of all, so I'm not a coach that really says, okay, let's just keep going until your body says, okay, it needs a break. I really believe in one complete day off, undo nothing. To me, it's good for the body and the mind. But it's also that relationship that you have with your athletes. So as I'm building their plans week to week, and it's communication, right? They're communicating to me how workouts felt, where they struggled, where they excelled. And we can tell certain things. Heart rate affects your fatigue level. Your heart rate tends to accelerate. So if you're usually working at one level and watching your heart rate, we know the range it should be in. And then all of a sudden it's not dropping the way it should. It's a good indicator that your body's saying we're hitting a fatigue level. So usually if that happens and we're still in a training build cycle, we will pull back on some workouts, or we might even skip a workout. Okay. Just because to me, recovery is just as important as the workouts that I'm handing my athletes. So if they're not properly recovered, they're not going to be able to perform at the level that they should be. So I actually think it's more important than, getting your swim bike run in. Mm-hmm.
So now, what about, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And it's okay. I think I lost my thought already. So
No.
carry on.
What about nutrition? So we know that recovery is important. How much do you stress nutrition to your athletes? Having a good nutrition diet.
is obviously nutrition is a personal journey. So everybody's nutrition is different. So if you're a athlete coming in that, you know, doesn't have any weight issue, it's more, we're talking about the fourth discipline of which is nutrition, because you can't go out there and sustain yourself for several hours if you're not taking some kind of nutrition in. So every time I train like I'm going. So if I'm going out for an hour run, I'm always carrying nutrition. Now, what that nutrition is, it varies depending on how long that activity is going to be. So that would be something that I would discuss with my athletes. But it's imperative. Like when I run, I'm on a 1 mile regimen where I'm taking in some kind of fluid every mile I run, whether it's my fuel nutrition or whether it's just water. So that's the way I race, and that's the way I train. If it's a long bike ride, then, you know, it's nutrition. It might be some gels. It might be some extra soda. But those are, you know, discussions that I have with my athletes as I go on. And for those athletes that are doing the longer distances, when I'm writing up their plan, there's always, you know, a little blurb, you know, hydration of fuel, because we have to be able to learn and explore what works for each one of us individually. What works for me might not work for someone else. I've been blessed with a pretty good stomach that doesn't reject a lot, but there's other people that aren't that fortunate. So we're experimenting every time we go out. If we're trying to figure it out, and if we've found what works, then we're making sure that we're fueling how we need to fuel for the race on every workout. Nutrition wise, I started eating a lot more whole food based diet last year, which I felt really helped me energy wise, and just really feeling better about myself, you know, feeling good about the way I eat, you know, kind of probably more than the average person.
And why, wait a minute, why is that? Why is that? Why do you eat more? Do you think I'm an athlete that needs to eat before they work out. So when I wake up in the morning, I always have, usually used to be an oatmeal person. I've kind of switched to whole grain waffles. So I'll eat a couple whole grain waffles in the morning. And then after a workout, I'm making sure I'm taking in some kind of recovery, whether it's a recovery drink. I do like a little bit of yogurt and berries after a workout. And then after I've cleaned up and settled, I typically will have a normal breakfast. So that's kind of, I'm a very heavy morning eater, and then kind of tail it off as the day goes on. Let me ask you this. Do you think that kind of carried over from your bodybuilding? Or that's just who you've always been? Because bodybuilders tend to eat heavier, especially morning, because you need the fuel, you need the energy, right?
Yeah, you need the fuel. I think bodybuilding, you know, it's a whole different beast when it comes to eating. It really is. But yes, you definitely have to make sure that you're feeding the machine, right?
Right, absolutely.
So my husband kind of always refers to feeding the machine. So if you're not properly feeding your body, which is your machine, whether it be bodybuilding or triathlon or, you know, whatever sport you're in, you're not going to be successful as if you were feeding it properly.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if the reason, because, you know, a lot of cyclists, it's funny. Well, let me say it like this. pro cyclists, you would be shocked to find how much they eat. They eat a lot. Like pro cyclists eat you under the table. But novice enthusiasts like myself, we tend to not to eat when we really should eat more. But, you know, the more you ride, the less you want to eat.
Right. I think what body did for me is I eat hungry. You know, so I don't say to myself, okay, I can only have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I typically will have my breakfast. I might have a mid-morning snack. I'll have my lunch. I might have an afternoon snack. To me, I found the success for me is to, if I'm trying to, you know, lose weight, is kind of get that word of restriction out of your head. Okay, because for me, if I say I can't have something, I want it that much more. So I find that if I say, okay, whether it, you know, grabbing some carrots and hummus in the afternoon or an apple with peanut butter to kind of curve that sensation of hunger until you actually get to your meal, that has been successful for me, because then my body's not going into that, why, you know, kind of that starvation. Why aren't you feeding me? I'm going to hide all your fat. So I think that is back from when I used to do a lot of strength training.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious because usually when someone is more disciplined in eating, that I found, that I've talked to, or even through the podcast, when it comes down to cycling, not necessarily a triathlete, but cycling in general, it's because the discipline or whatever sport they came from required a more disciplined eating regimen. So it kind of carried over because even when I talk to cyclists now, that's probably one of the things that they do the worst is the nutrition. You know, eating right, hydrating correctly, eating enough, you know, hitting that wall to avoid hitting that proverbial wall that we always hit because we run out of energy.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, the one thing about bodybuilding is it's a really, looking back on it, it's a very unhealthy way to restrict your intake so that you can get to a point where, you know, you can see the striations of your muscles, basically, for bodybuilding. So it's a whole different world there. And unfortunately, I probably, you know, as an Ironman, if I look back, it's kind of comical how much I ate. I would really out-eat anyone around me. But I needed those calories to sustain, you know, those 12 or 13 hours of working out every week and to accomplish that goal. Now, after it, I was like, my mind kind of reverted back to bodybuilding, because I was kind of one of those unfortunate people that you restrict. The bodybuilding competition was done, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can eat whatever I want. And then, boom, you're like 30 pounds heavier than you ever were.
Wow.
So the thing about Ironman is that you're not restricting. So you might be eating a ton of food, but your body is consuming and using all of those calories, so that when you're done, you know, of course you're not going to eat quite that much, but your body naturally kind of just goes back to taking in what it needs. So there's really not that, oh my God, I gained 30 pounds after doing an Ironman, which I was really thankful for. But yeah, kind of two different worlds there. But it definitely did cross my mind when I finished my Ironman. I better not put on the 30 pounds I did when I finished my bodybuilding.
Well, I tell you, Dina, I appreciate, it's been a wealth. You wouldn't believe that it's already been 30 minutes.
Wow, that was quick.
Right, I told you. It's been a wealth of knowledge and helping us understand what it takes to be a triathlete, correcting the perception. I don't know where, and this is just me learning the sport, but I've seen this terminology of masters, and I don't know where. Somehow I associated masters group in maybe a certain age. and above. Not.
Well, I think we all, I think once you get into our later years, right, our 50s, or we kind of label ourselves as the masters out there. I mean, I think there's a lot of labels out there. Even, the swim group I'm with, it's a master swim team. Well,
Okay.
why is it a master swim team? So even though there are younger people there, I think it's just kind of a label that's out there.
So it's not really an official thing. It's kind of, okay. So it's sort of like a generic label for older age.
Yes.
I got you. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that, because I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, that's how they category. And once you hit a certain age, you just automatically get thrown into this masters group. But no.
Yeah. No, I think we put ourselves in those groups as we age.
Got it. Well, it's been great. It's been absolutely great talking to you, Dina. And
I appreciate the opportunity. If I could just say, if you are drawn to the sport, don't be afraid of it. There's a lot of opportunity. I'm still involved in the sport because of the community. So the community of triathlon is super supportive to whatever your goals might be. And if that is just to, swim, bike, and run on your own pace, just to accomplish the distance, we're here to support that. So I think, into coaching because I wasn't sure how much longer I would be able to race, and loved the sport and wanted to be able to, grow the sport and share that journey with other people. So don't be afraid of it. Come out and we'd love to have you.
Why don't you give them the information where they can, if someone sees this and they looking for a coach, where they can find you? I know your website is up right here.
I coach with Mary Tobiasen and Alvin Smith. Athletic Movement Perfected is the name of our company. Tri-Labs is the name of our triathlon group. So they can search Athletic Movement Perfected on the web, Facebook. If you want to reach out to me personally, Dena Colie at triathlonlabs.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
And also, before we let you go, you are an entrepreneur, family-owned business, and I definitely want you to mention that, where you're located, a little bit about your business, so people can get in touch with you.
So my family owns Baroni's of Glen Ellen. We've been in business for over 51 years. So Tri-Athelete, I definitely get my carbs through our restaurant. So happy to have anybody come out, but that's what I do on my spare time.
Great.
I'm a restaurant owner.
Terrific. Listen, thank you so much, Dina. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for asking me.
Oh, absolutely.
As always.
Sure. I am going to do a segment where I get a bunch of coaches together, so I hope you'll be willing to come back and join our panel discussion when I pull it together.
That'd be great.
Talking about various of things.
Okay, wonderful.
Sounds
well,
great.
I look forward to seeing you out on the road.
Oh, yeah, that will be soon. I got to get in shape. You just came from Utah, so you got light years ahead of me right now.
Oh, no. We all work together.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you all. Listen, this has been another episode of All Things Fitness, and I hope, as I always end, we can do all things in Christ who strengthen us, which is our foundational scripture, and we believe it because we believe that if you put your mind to it, and you got the faith that you can apply behind it, and you're a believer that Christ is the source of our strength, then you can do all things. And I don't care how old you are, how young you are, if you desired, or just listening to this podcast, you may say to yourself, you know what? I always wondered if I could be a triathlete. Well, Dina, she just told you, you could, you can, you absolutely can. All you have to do is just be willing to take one step forward toward the goal. I'm not a swimmer, but you know what? I am taking swimming classes, and I'm going to say to myself that at some point I'm going to learn how to swim to complete a triathlete. But until I do, I am going to do a duathlon because I can run and I can cycle. So you shouldn't let it stop you. There, as she broke down, there are various ways that you can start in the sport and just build your way up. So don't let no be the answer, the final answer. Give yourself a shot, give yourself a chance, believe in yourself, and see what happens. All right, this is your boy Cross, aka the Christian Cyclist. And until I see you again on the next episode, thank you for joining me, and we will be back. Peace.